friends, my name is Lindsey and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls. Welcome to or welcome back to Little Corner of the Internet, where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. Today is a recent read and it is a much delayed, very maybe anticipated, I'm not sure. I have some really good books on here. Like, this is nearly all the books I read in September, thereabouts, and I meant to film that, but then crazy things were happening in life, so I took my break, and technically I'm still on it. I'm not going to be back to posting every week or every other week yet, probably not, but I need to try to film at least a couple things so I can update y'all on recent reads, because with these 16 books, I think there's like almost another 40. Someone's texting me? Okay, I'll answer her back later. But, sorry. If I am scatterbrained in this video, that's my life right now. So I still have like another 40 books I need to talk about that I've read more recently than these. But I need to talk about them in order for the sake of my little bit of sanity that's left. Just a little bit. Like, that much sanity is left. So we're going to talk about these. And I'm going to be dusting cobwebs off of my brain while I think about these, but this was a really good list, and I'm sad I'm not going to be able to talk and fangirl about them as much as I could have been, but my mom took priority. Her health hasn't been great, and we're still working through that all, so thank you all so much for the prayers, and if you think about us, please keep praying, because yeah, we're still having hard days and rough days, and so we're just trying to figure things out and pray that the good Lord just heals up her nerves, and that will fix the nerve pain and hopefully be able to walk again. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind praying still, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. But for today, we're going to talk about 16 books. 10 of them are Christian fiction, and then I have 6 clean fiction. This is all, like, everybody got above 3 stars, which was really exciting. I don't know if I've had a recent reads where it does that, but one more note before I get into listing all these. I do want to note that I started another Instagram account. I know I need another social media account platform thingamajig to run. Like, I need another hole in my foot, or a hole in my foot. Well, however the phrase goes, I don't need another one. But I've been tossing it around for the last few months, because on the Books for Christian Girls Instagram page, which I always share, that is really just for books that are good and Christian and I recommend. That I want that to just be like, you can look at this and whatever book is mentioned, trust that I gave it a good rating. That's kind of the mindset of BFCG's Instagram page, and I want to keep it that way. But I've been reading a lot more clean fiction, mainly fairy tale retellings. And I want a place to talk about those as well, besides just here on booktube and on Goodreads. So I created book reviews by Lindsey. Please know my name is spelled with an E, and so, because like, you're not going to find it if you spell my name wrong. So just a note. Sorry. I had my name spelled another new way this week, and I'd never gotten that one before. Lincey. I don't hate it, but it's not my name. Anyway, I digress. So that is going to be for clean fiction and Christian fiction that I really enjoy. I'm going to talk about ones on there, and I already have a few posts up, particularly because of a certain book series that has had controversy, we'll just put it that way, and I've been at the forefront of that this week. So that's what that account is going to have coming up. It's just going to be recommendations, but I did start off that account with kind of a bang, with a not recommendation, an unfortunate update on a very popular series. So that's that. I don't know when this video is going to be up. I'm going to have to, not only do I have to have time to like get ready to film and then edit. Yeah, there's a lot of details of making these videos, and I love doing them, but they do take a lot more time than I realized. So just going to squeeze this in right now for today, and if I can film another one later today, that'd be awesome, but I'm not counting on it. So let's start with the list, but as always, I have these organized from Christian fiction to clean fiction. There's timestamps in the description if you would like to skip around. That is more than okay. And then I'll also have in the description the content review links to all of these books. So if it's Christian fiction, it'll take you to the blog. If it's clean fiction, it'll take you to Goodreads, and you can check out and see if the book is a good fit for you. And I'm going to have these organized from lowest rating in the genre to the highest rating, to hopefully end this video on a good note. So let's get started. The first book I have is Sweet Cranberries by Sherry Kyle. I gave this one a personal rating of 3 stars. It was cheesy. I'm not gonna lie, it was cheesy. It was very Hallmark movie plotline of the main girl is going to go run her aunt's restaurant in this small little island town, and then she volunteers to run the Cranberry Festival, and she was, you know, treated with a little bit of like skeptic looks from the other people, including the main guy who is an electric. That's not, what do you, electrician. That's the word I'm looking for. Electrician or plumber. I don't remember which one. I could read the back cover and tell you probably, but yeah, you get the idea. And so it is very Hallmark-ish. It was cute. I remember that they communicated pretty well. I didn't quite believe that they were in their 30s, but they did communicate pretty well for a romance contemporary book. So not too bad, not too shabby. It was book 2 in the series, but you do not have to read them in order, it seemed like. I didn't seem like I was missing anything, and looking at the back covers of the other books in the series, they didn't seem to mention characters that were mentioned in this book. So I think it would be fine to read it as a standalone like I did. Another book I read was the final book in a middle grade historical fantasy series trilogy, and that would be Operation Bungaree, I think is how we're going to say it, by J.D. Peabody. This is book 3 in the Inkwell Chronicles trilogy. I wasn't sure if it was going to have where there could be more books, and I think it's a kind of an open ending where there could be one day, but for now it looks like the trilogy is completed with this one. And I was actually really eager to read this one because the second book ended on a cliffhanger I was stunned about, and just like, I can't believe I'll have to wait so long now for that. I think for me though, the thing that's been really neat about this trilogy is it is set in a post-World War II England. The main 2 kiddos, it's Everett and Bee, 2 siblings, and their father is a reverend, and so there's like, it's not, I guess you could say it's not technically Christian fiction, but it's published by a Christian publisher, and there are Christian themes and morals and a little bit of faith content here and there. But what I really like about this series is seeing the sibling dynamics and how they care for each other and just all of that. It's just nice because there's not like name calling or pushing, shoving, get out of my room kind of nonsense. It was just it's wholesome in a way, I guess you could say. And also it should be noted that like the villains of this series, being a fantasy series, they are not humans. They're kind of like creature-like things, and there's just been little nuances throughout the story that have been a really fun little note. So like these creature things, because they are evil, they can't go into any holy place, so like a church or not. And if they do, if I remember right, if they do step foot in it, they turn into a gargoyle. And that's just like, oh wow, and you think of all the old churches that have gargoyles and everything. So it's just like that kind of very inventive, creative world. And then you've got the magical setting with this magic ink that makes whoever uses it be able to create something just beautiful and amazing. And it's just a really, really neat series. I was really glad to finally read this 3rd book though, because book 2 ended on a horrible, terrible, whatever word you want to use, combine the 2 to make a new word, cliffhanger. And so I've been really waiting for this 3rd book. And I would say personally, it probably would be best to read them as like a binge series, because there's not like a lot of recapping. So this 3rd book I was like, okay, wait, who is this? What are they referring to? That kind of thing. There's not much of a backstory or like a catch up, if you will, a recap. So maybe read them back to back if you can. And then it was actually left pretty open ending where like it's solved. Everything is like, okay, where it's calm, but the author definitely could come back to this world and do like a spin-off series or continue the books, and I think that would be really fun. But for now, this trilogy is complete, it looks like. The next book I gave 3.5 stars, and this was a reread. This was A Whisper and a Wish by Robin Jones Gunn. I'm going to just put up the old cover here. I could put up the older cover, which is, yeah, but so we're not going to do that. So this was a 3.5 for like, personally, but for nostalgic reasons, it's kind of a 4. Oh, the thing I think with this one is Katie's introduced in this book, and Katie is just like the best. I still haven't read her books yet, but I'm working on it. And well, I'm working towards it, let's put it that way. So like Katie's introduced in this book, it's great. But you know who is also introduced in this book? Rick. No, I almost forgot about how much I disliked that guy. Like, I did a status update on Goodreads when I was reading it, and it's like, oh great, Rick. I'd almost forgotten about him. Because 12-year-old Lindsey couldn't stand him when I first read this series, and 25-year-old Lindsey still can't stand him. And the amount of comments with the Rick slander were great. Y'all just made my day with that, because I fully stand behind the Rick slander. Oh, it's crazy though that this is what, technically book 2 in the Christy Miller series, and I've read it now 3 times, and it's crazy to me how so many scenes of this series have stuck with me throughout the years. And also the thing is, like, there's a lot of lessons for Christy in these first 3 books, and even though it was written 20 years ago, it doesn't feel dated. 20 plus years ago, it doesn't feel dated. Like, the only thing that like might give a nod to like the time period it was written in was the fact they don't really have cell phones, and like there's mentions of landlines, and then they write letters. But like, it's, I don't know, it just felt like it's such a normal way that it's like oh wait a second, you realize later she doesn't have a cell phone to text or call. Maybe that's just me, but it's just neat. So the first book had some harder topics with the underage drinking and partying. Not that Christy took part of it, but like she went to one and kind of saw how that went, and then there's a death because of that in the first book. And then in the second book, there's more about a new friend that Christy has made that's not Katie, that should have, lessons are learned. Anyway, so this new friend, it's more about like eating disorders and that kind of thing. So this one is more heavy on that, but by the end of it, there's a lot of lessons. So technically 3.5 I'll give it, but nostalgic rating of 4. My next book I gave 3.5 stars as well, and that would be Into Thin Air by Sandra Orchard. This is book 3 in the Mysteries of the Cobble Hill Farm series. I'm struggling with that title today, I don't know why. And it's actually on Kindle Unlimited, just to give y'all a heads up. This whole series is, which just, well, all the books in the series that have been published. And that makes me really excited because I've never really seen guideposts do that before. So just as a heads up, I did like this one. So basically, this is about our girl named Harriet, and she is a vet. She has recently moved to England to take over her grandfather's veterinary clinic. And so in this third book, there's a mysterious illness going around the cattle in the area, and which was kind of weird for me to think about cows in England. I don't know, I always just think of sheep, but that's my Texan brain coming out, I guess. So we have that element, but then we also have where a a found baby is found in the bushes over by her clinic, and and they're like, what happened to the mom? What's going on? All this kind of things. And so yeah, that's basically the general premise of the story. I liked it. It was a little dramatic at times, and I feel like Harriet leaped a little bit too much to conclusions. Like, she was on the trampoline at times, but it was entertaining nonetheless, and I enjoyed it. Yeah, looking forward to continuing the series. The next book is a Christian middle grade book, and this is book 2 in the Tree Street Kids series, and it's titled The Hunt for Fang by Amanda Cleary Eastep. I think that's how you pronounce the author's last name. I gave this one 4 stars. One thing I just absolutely adored about this book was the VBS setting. I thought that was so much fun because this series already has such a nostalgic kids summer in the suburbs, riding your bike with your friends and like coming up with games and adventures. It already has that feel so well. But then to add in the VBS, I was just like tickled pink because VBS was such a big part of my childhood, and I love VBS. I realized though in reading this that I need to have someone please write me a contemporary YA book that has to do with VBS, like the main girl volunteering or VBS, something regarding that. Like, I think that would be so much fun. That would be so much fun. And I haven't really gotten to volunteer at VBS very often because our church does a different kind of setup. So I can't write it, basically, is what I'm saying. That's my excuse. I can't write it. So somebody write that, and like, let it be so much fun. Okay, thank you. Like, in style of like Sketchy Behavior by Aaron Mangum humor, cough, just like suggestions and just, okay, anyway, I would love to see that though. let me know. Okay, so back to this book though. This is The Hunt for Fang, and this is such a fun series. This is about Jack and his friends, and they have a kind of there is a bully, but like he's not the main focus of this book, which I was very grateful for because I'm kind of done with the whole bully theme in Christian middle grade books. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Almost every series has one. So like he was very kind of on the minor side, but the more of the main premise is this VBS survival camp that one of the kids' churches is doing. And then one of the girls in the group, Ruthie, her cat goes missing, and they are trying to find what happened to her, but then they're hearing wolves in the forest near their street, their neighborhood, and they're all kind of like, which I was that way as well. I gotta be honest, as a sensitive animal lover, I was concerned. I was like, where is this gonna go? I need happiness, no sadness, and I'm very happy with how the ending worked out. So that's all I'm going to say in regards to that. But if you were a mama or big sister or someone who is wanting to know about how did that animal part work out, in case you have a sensitive animal lover, especially a sensitive cat lover, I have that as a spoiler in my review that you can check out just to make sure your kiddo, or yourself in all reality. I enjoyed it. I'm 25. I read middle grade. There's nothing wrong with that. It's fun. So whoever needs to know, though, it ends okay. That's all I'm going to say. It was really cute, though. Really looking forward to continuing this series. It looks like there's going to be 6 books, at least, in the series, because the 6th book is releasing next year, and book 5 just released. So I've got to catch up, but so far I've been really enjoying these. My next one is a Christian historical fiction book. It's actually a dual time period, and it goes back and forth between 1885 and 2023, and it is A Token of Love by Carrie Turansky. I really like Carrie Turansky's writing because her books, there's the faith content is just beautiful, but then the romances are also just so heartwarming, like literally heartwarming and so sweet. So I didn't really know anything about this book going into it, but once I started reading, I was like, oh no, please let this end happy. Please let this end happy. I have trust issues when it comes to like books that deal with harder topics like human trafficking. I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. The basic premise of this book is in the 1885 timeline. Our main girl is Lillian, and she is a widow, and her sister ran off prior to go marry this one man that their father didn't approve of. And so she's kind of been out of contact with her, but she suddenly receives a letter from her sister saying, I am very ill. I need you to go collect my daughter for me from the children's foundling home. Is that how? Foundling hospital. So kind of like an orphanage setting. And then when she goes and she meets her sister and she gets the little token, because that's how they would identify the children with their parents in this time period. Very interesting. And so she goes to the founding home and she's being told something that might not be 100% true. And there's suspicions of what's going on and why are all the pretty little girls leaving and like that kind of thing. And you're kind of like, whoa, hang on here. Hold on, Lindsey, what are you telling me here? I know it. And that's why I was concerned too. The second half of this though, well, it goes back and forth. It goes back and forth like a dual time period. It's not like 2 novellas intersecting. They are back and forth chapters. And then the current day setting is set in 2023. And it is about Janelle, I think is how we pronounce her name. And she is unexpectedly pushed into her manager's position. And so now she is running the historical museum. That's the word I'm looking for. The museum for the founding hospital. And then she's getting inklings and hints and that like, wait a second, what happened in this time period? Why were there newspaper articles about missing children from the founding home? We need grants. That's not going to look good on us. So it kind of sets off that of what really happened. And then of course there's a little bit of romance in both of them. They actually were kind of attracted to each other pretty quick, and that would bug me, but they weren't really physically attraction based. It was like their kindness and just like the personality and the sweetness of the girls, that kind of thing, and the faith conversations. It was very sweet in that regard. So I didn't get incredibly invested in the romances, but I did really like how they did. Now on to the human trafficking and abductions. That's a hard topic to read about in any time period, historical, present. That's hard to read about. This book handled it very delicately though. I would still push it for slightly older, but it wasn't, we never lingered in the gutter of the ickiness of what's going on in that industry. It's just hard. I don't know if everyone will understand what I mean when I say this, but for me, I think reading about historical human trafficking is harder because what's done is done and those stories can't be changed now. As opposed to contemporary modern day human trafficking, we can fight that. And there's so many organizations that are fighting that, and there should be way more awareness than there should be about all of it. And so, I don't know. With this book, it can really like want to spur you into action for the current problems of the world. But it still did weigh kind of heavy on my heart at times. The author was very sensitive and very delicate with this topic, though. I'm still gonna say, though, probably older teens, and especially if like you maybe are doing research on it all, but you don't want to be inundated with the evilness of that, this would be an option. I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling so much. I'm so sorry. But I did really enjoy this book. I gave it 4 stars. I wouldn't say it's my favorite of this author's books, but I would so much, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm going to point it out anyway, I would love a book 2 of the historical setting, because the historical setting ended in such a way that I loved so much that I would quite literally read a whole nother book, multiple books on, because it kind of introduced into the found family trope, and I love that trope, and I loved the ending of the historical part. And I wish there had been way more of it, personally. But it was an emotional read, but a good one. So speaking of human trafficking, we have another book that kind of deals with, it does kind of deal with that in a way. And I knew that going in, so I've kind of been holding this book off so I could read it when I was like, ready for it. And that was This Life of Mine by Victoria Lynn. I gave this one 4 stars, so let's just kind of get the trigger warnings out of the way first. So mentions of a miscarriage, implied/forced abortion, abuse and implied sexual assault, and prostitution. So it is, you're gonna cry. I cried. Oh, I mean, I would imagine you would cry. But this is book 2 in the Chronicles. My mind just went blank on how to say the name. I'm so sorry. This is the title. I know it. Oh, that's for shame, Lindsey. I don't remember how to say it. For shame, Lindsey. Okay, but this is book 2. Book 1 was Once I Knew, which I really enjoyed. This one features a character from that's just lovable, like Marcus. We love him. And so this is his story and his romance, if you will. But the thing is, the romance really took the back burner to the fact that both of these characters needed to learn and know and believe in their worth in the Lord. And that was just wonderful to see. I just really, really love how this author does her faith content. And even though it had those harder topics, it was really such an easy book to fly through because I wanted to know what was going to happen. I wanted to see the redemption for these characters. Not that they were villains by any stretch of the imagination, but I wanted to see them have their come to Jesus meeting, if you will. And it was just precious. I really like Marcus, and I think I honestly would really suggest this book for like older teens and adults if you've ever struggled with the thought that you're not useful enough for the Lord, especially if you compare yourself to others and like, oh, this person's out there doing XYZ for God and I'm just here kind of thing. Marcus has those thoughts, and how he comes through it and like his thought process during it is, I feel like, such a natural, normal way in his setting. And so to see that change in his perspective and how others talk to him about the Lord, and like he's good at giving advice, but he doesn't take it for himself kind of mindset. And it was just really good to see Marcus again, number one, but also to see him through this. So I read this one in preparation of reading the third book, which, hang on just a moment here. Look at the size. Wow, that's massive on camera. Wow. Okay, so This Life of Mine, really good, 4 stars, and I read it, and finally, I meant to read it last year when it released, and I just never got around to it, which was for shame, Lindsay. But I read it because The Lost Rose was releasing back November 1st, October. I feel like this was right at the end of October. So, yes, this is, though, 500 pages. Can we just look at that difference? Oh, fantastic. So, this, okay, so first I should give the disclaimer, I guess, here, that the author did reach out to me about reviewing this book and doing an endorsement. So, like, my endorsement is actually here in the front, which is just, I'm always so honored when I get asked that. I don't get to always accept to do that because of time constraints and just different things. But I was so incredibly honored, incredibly tickled pink to do that for this book. And the neat thing though about this book is typically series, you know, they kind of like maybe skip a year or two. We skip in the future in this book. And so many things have happened. It's a very light Rapunzel retelling in this one. There's not really any romance either. Because this, what can I say? I'm trying to think, what can I say that's not a spoiler? Okay, I want you to go in like, you've read book 1, you've read book 2, read book 3. I want you to go in with that mindset, but like brace yourself. Brace yourself for this book, my dear friends. I gave it 4.75 stars, if you will, 5 rounded on Goodreads. I will give it a 5 at a reread. If in a future book a certain thing happens, it's going to be dependent on that thing. I'm just going to say, like, I can't say spoilers, but my heart got ripped out. It got pieced back together. It kind of got ripped to shreds again and got pieced back together. It was an emotional journey, but it was really, really good. Again, the faith content was outstanding. And then the main girl in this is Rosalie, and she has basically been held a captive or a prisoner for the last multiple years. Well, basically all her life, really. I take that back. Not for multiple years. For her whole life. And so we have the perspective of this knight. Yeah, I'm going to call him a knight. This knight who's trying to rescue her. And it's very much more of like a little sister, older brother, niece, uncle kind of vibe with them. And I just found that so heartwarming and just so wonderful to see that. It was so nice to not have a romance. Like, I like a good romance often, but it's really nice when I have ones that aren't, and it's kind of like a palate cleanser, if you will. And this was a very big palate cleanser, but it was really good. If you have read book 1 and book 2, you have to read book 3, and then book 4, I'm not sure when that's releasing, but I'm ready. Ready. And then book 5, I think, is the last book that's going to come out, and it was just beautifully done. Beautifully done. Just so many thoughts. I want to fangirl so much. I also kind of want to cry, but it was really good. I can't talk about all that because of spoilers, but lots of things happen, and I just can't get over the size difference here. I cannot, like, this is a chunk, and it's heavy too, so like, could be a weapon if you needed it to be. But, okay, yes, I finally read them, and wow. Wow. And then another 4.5, I'm just going to put it here. I feel like The Lost Rose would definitely be above this one, but I'm just putting those two together because I was talking about the 2 books in the same series together. But we're going to go with Yours Forever by Robin Jones Gunn. This is book 3 in the Christy Miller series, and this is, if you read the Christy Miller series, if this wasn't a nostalgic read for you and you've read it when you were older, an older teen, because like you've heard me talk about it, you've heard so much about it, I highly suggest giving it to this 3rd book. Because the 1st book, like I said, you've got like the drinking and drug kind of party scene, and Christy's like over that and like not impressed, not gonna take part of it, but like that is a part of the book. And just her trying to fit in. Book 2, it has this new friend group entering in, and one of them has an eating disorder and is just like a piece of work. Not because of this eating disorder, that's not why, because of other reasons. That girl is a mess. And then she has the eating disorder on top of it. So like that, yeah, just want to clarify because I'm on the internet, and it's a minefield here on the internet some days. So book 3 though, certain things are revealed. And if Okay, again, I've read this 3 times. And so Christy is back. This one was actually set during Christmas time. And she's meeting up with Todd, but like there's struggles with like Christy and her aunt's relationship, and then Todd is kind of being kind of different and odd and distant. And then there's another friend that comes back from the first book with she doesn't really come back. We get a letter from her. Massive announcement there. And that element right there made such an impact on me at like ages 12, 16, whenever I first read these. I read it once at 12, once 16, 17, and then now here I am at 25 reading it. And so like Christy's hormones are kind of a wreck in this one. I'm not gonna lie, she's a little emotional here. But again, she's like, what, 15, 14? Yeah, that's totally reasonable. And so here's the thing though, Todd, the ending bit of this, the conversations that Todd has and the witnessing, because Christy's aunt and uncle, they're very, they're not religious, they're not any bit of Christianity. Her uncle is kind of more of like a God helps those who help themselves kind of mentality. And then her aunt is like, we don't discuss this kind of thing. And so, but Todd just like goes and like he just discusses it in such a beautiful way. And like he has these good debates, and it's just like, this is why we love Todd. Like in all reality, so all of that to say, if you have been like, Lindsey, I read book 1, give it another try. Or if you read and you got to book 2 and you're like, Lindsey, really, give it to book 3. Give it to book 3. Just like read this whole little collection. It's fine. The font is blue for some reason. It's fun. But golly, Todd in this 3rd book. This is why everybody, like all the fans of the series, love Todd, is because of this 3rd book. I'm going hoarse here, but his actions and his thoughts. He's one of a kind. But then there was one conversation in this 3rd book about an out-of-wedlock pregnancy, and when I tell you that shaped me when I was 12, the conversation that's had in this book about that has stuck with me more than half my life. And it has made me such an impact on how I view that kind of thing. And it's just, again, Todd is phenomenal in this 3rd book. And you can really see the direction of where the series is going to go. We're going to backtrack and slide a little bit here coming up because of Rick. I already remember that much. But Todd, there's a reason why we love him, and this 3rd book proves it. So personally, 4.5 stars. What a guy. Okay, let me get a drink of water though, because yikes. I think the camera angle shifted slightly. I had to change out the battery. Okay, so where were we at? Oh, that's right. Okay, so not only do I have like, how many was that? 2 4.5s. I also have a 5 today for Christian fiction, which is just thrilling. And the kicker on this, Because of You by Hannah Currie, I've had this book on my TBR, on my shelf staring at me for quite a while. I love it when I have a book on my TBR that like, wow, loved it, it's amazing, 5 stars. But at the same time, when it's been on my TBR and it's been staring at me, and I missed that, like I'm late. I feel like, I don't know. Anyway, 5 stars. 5 stars. So I tabbed different parts, and I tabbed parts I really liked, but then I also tagged parts that reminded me of my own mission trip, well, student trip, to China in 2016. So this is about Chloe, and she's 16, and she is going on her first ever mission trip to Thailand. And she's so excited because she's always been thinking about her first ever mission trip and like what that's going to be like and all the details of maybe being a missionary one day. Like, I loved Chloe so much. And she gets to Thailand and there's challenges and there's things she has to learn. And it was just so well done. I absolutely adored this book because it reminded me so much of my own trip to China, which was a student trip, not a mission trip because it's China. But there was just so many parts, and like loving on the children and then painting and then doing the handprints on the wall, like so many parts. So like a lot of my tabs are for that, but I also just had to tab parts adored. Like, whether it be the faith content or the antics of the other students on the trip, it was just so, so good. This is easily one of my favorite books from the year. Just 5 stars. 5 stars all around. You're going to be hearing me talk about this book for a while. I do want to point out there's no romance in this book. Which, I know some of y'all are going to be like, man, kind of thing, which at first I was too, but at the same time, by the end of it, I was just like, wait a second, it didn't need it, and it did not need it. That would have distracted from the message and what Chloe was learning and the faith content and how her faith was growing. And I also really, really loved how in this book it was discussed, like, Chloe, she's been raised by a Christian family, she grew up in church. It was just very natural for her to give her heart to the Lord. And like, she didn't have like a big testimony of like God pulled her out of like this XYZ horrible situation and now here she is today. And she's always like, I don't really have a testimony, thinking that all testimonies were that way. And I used to think that as well. And then somebody tells her in this book that you don't have to have that as a testimony. That is a testimony. You don't have to have something like all insane and crazy and like all the insanity of life. You don't have to have that to come to the Lord. Having a quiet testimony or a plain testimony, that is a testimony in itself of the Lord's goodness. And I loved seeing that also discussed, because that was very much me at this age as well. And just, she had the best attitude throughout the book, different things. So like, they have to use a, was it the squatty potty they had to use? Yeah, the squatty potty. Yeah, that was it. She's just like, well, this is how it is. I'm not really looking forward to it, but that's how it is here. And that's how it was in China with me as well. And so I loved Chloe. I loved this book. There were so many wonderful parts. As far as age range, if you will, I would say like mid to older teen, just because like there are hints of human trafficking and prostitution and like what could happen to the young girls that this girl's home takes care of if this girl's home wasn't there. So it does allude to that kind of thing, but I feel like if you didn't know about human trafficking, would you pick the pieces together? You'd be maybe suspicious, but I don't think like you would understand fully what it is, if that makes any sense at all. But I just enjoyed this book so much. And it was also really fun that Chloe is Australian and she is going to Thailand. So like, you have a lot of like Australian words and phrases that I was just like, huh? And that was really fun. That was very much outside my comfort zone, but it was so much fun. Like, I would totally be down to reading another contemporary YA setting of an Australian main girl. So much fun. Absolutely adored this one. I really, truly did. It just brought such a smile to my face. I teared up. I laughed. Like, I had all the emotions. Really, really good. Highly, highly recommend. One of my best books of the year. And that is the end of the Christian fiction section of this video. I love getting to talk about 5-star books. I rarely get to, but I love it when I do. And this one was just so good. Such a gem. Such a gem. You're going to be hearing me talk about this one a lot. But like, if you have ever been interested in the mission field or going on mission trips, or like you want to be reminded of your own mission trips, check it out. If you just like contemporary Christian YA, here you go. If you want a book that has no romance, here you go. If you want good faith lessons, here you go. I'm definitely going to be shouting about this one for a lot longer. So that was the Christian fiction section for this video. Now we're going to move into clean fiction. Some really good, and we're going to end off here shortly, but then we've got some 3 stars. So first one I have is a clean Regency, and that is Games in the Ballroom by Jentry Flint. This one was different than I was expecting. So half of this book was really lighthearted and fun because the main couple are like kind of flirting, we'll say, and these childhood games. It's kind of a best friend's brother. They grew up together. He fell for her, but like her family's like, heavens no, you can't like him kind of thing. And so there's a lot of ballrooms, and so they kind of do this little like game challenge thing at each ball where like they have to kind of play tag, but no one else can figure out that something's going on between these two and their siblings. And so that concept was really cute, and I really like that. But then you have the other half of the book where her father is abusive, and like you've got the domestic violence, and it's just like you have cute, happy, lighthearted ballroom, cute flirting scenes, and then next chapter the father's being horrible and abusive physically and verbally, and it's just the ugh. So it was kind of like Whiplash. So I'm like, I say 3-ish stars, but recalling what I remember, I almost would put it down to a 2, 2.5. I won't be keeping this one, unfortunately, just because of that. But it's really a disappointment because the main guy, I like it when, like, when the main guy is just head over heels for the girl and, like, so smitten, but secretly pining away, whatever. And, like, he falls first. I eat that up. Love that. That's so cute. But then you have the domestic violence. It was really hard. Like, is this supposed to be like a lighthearted rom-com or a serious, heavy-handed domestic violence awareness kind of book? Like, which angle are we going for? I don't know. The author has another book that I think either just released or is releasing soon that's about the main guy and his sister and one of his friends. And I'm curious about that, so I'll probably give it a try and read it just because I'm curious what will happen in that situation. But, yeah, this was kind of weird. In all reality, it was kind of a letdown because, like, so cute, and honestly, you just want to push her father off a bridge. And, like, I was ready to do it. Blink twice, I'll do it. Like, it was just really odd. That was unfortunate because it had such cute moments, but then you have her father just being horrible and abusive, verbally and physically. And he just brought down the whole plot. Yeah, I don't know. So, yeah, this one was kind of a miss, kind of a bummer, unfortunately. My next one, I consider this clean fiction, but I have reviewed it on BFCG because it's published by Enclave, and you never really know how their books will go. Like, in the series, will faith content be added in? But this is book 3 in the Color Theory series. It's a trilogy. And I gave it 3.5 stars. I did this as a buddy read with Holly and Celestia. We buddy read book 2. So it was really fun to buddy read book 3 together. And I can't really say too much because it is book 3 in the trilogy. And it's a super connecting trilogy where it's the main girl throughout all 3 books. And it picks up right where the last one left off. And so this is a fantasy, almost dystopian, futuristic world, but color magic. And you can draw, like, everyone has a certain color that they can do. So, like, red, blue, or yellow. And then you each typically have one. And you draw on items with that color. And that kind of feeds your abilities, your power to do different stuff. And so, our main girl is, of course, the protege. Let me say that again. Let me say that somewhat correctly. Protege. I think that's how we say it. I think it's French. I don't know. I don't speak French. And so we have her in the first book, and she comes across the highly wanted criminal male lead. And the story just starts from there. There's a corrupted government. There's secrets. You know, all this stuff. It took me a bit to get into this one. I was glad it connected right to where the second book left off because that was a cliffhanger. Been hanging for a year now, so it was kind of like how the Inkwell Chronicles was, in the sense of if you are binge reading this, it's great, but if you are having to wait in between books to read them, there's not really much of a recap, and I was like, who is this? And then the group text, we were like, who is this again? Why don't we like this person? Like, what's going on here? And it was good, because we were all, like, trying to jog each other's memories. So, I don't know what else to say about this one. If I remember right, I believe the first book, it was said that, like, this is set during in, like, the Bermuda Triangle where, like, there's magic. And so it was really interesting because, like, there's modern things like cell phones and fried food, but there's magic. It's different than my typical fantasy books. In all reality, I feel like I've read a lot of fantasy books this year, particularly fairy tale ones, and this one has definitely been one that stands out because it's different. I can't say I really like the relationship in this book. The two characters, they're fine. He's kind of an odd duck. In all reality, he's different. But I don't hate them. They're fine. There was some faith content at the end that I felt like needed to be built up more throughout the series personally. But I did like a lot of parts of it. I think this would be a really good binge reading series. And yeah, I read them, enjoyed them. I don't think I have anything else to say. Okay, my next one is a secular middle grade book. I'm trying to balance like 80 things on my lap, just a second. And it is Cold-Blooded Myrtle by Elizabeth C. Bunce. This is book 3 in the Myrtle Hardcastle series. This is a secular middle grade historical mystery with murder. So that right there, I don't really like the idea of murder in middle grade books. Like, as an adult reader, I can be like, really like, this is so fun, and that, well, not, well, okay, hang on, take that back. Not fun as in the murders, but like Myrtle, and also these titles are incredibly clever. Myrtle is a unique girl. Very unique. I really like her. She has this, unique perspective, kind of set in a Victorian England. I've been listening to the audiobooks of these and they are very well done. I've really enjoyed them. She is one of a kind though. So her father is a prosecutor, judge, something or another, solicitor, whatever. And then her mother has passed away, but her mother was a doctor. And then she's got her kind of governess, that's the word I'm looking for, which is Miss Judson. And all I have to say is bless her father and Miss Judson in more ways than one. But the matrimony bliss, I hope one day. Maybe. We'll see. I do think the series is done, though. And they just, like, they got she impresses me. Myrtle impresses me, but intimidates me at the same time. Like, if I had to babysit this girl, it would be entertaining. It would be very entertaining. So, this one is actually kind of set during Christmas, though, and I liked a lot of aspects of this. So, with this series, it is secular. There's been a few times where God's name is taken in vain, which I don't love. And there's also been a couple instances of like a word is cursed, but it's like dashed out. So like in the audiobook, it's kind of like a skip. Like if you remember, if you're old enough to remember, like when a CD would skip. Like if like you had like one of those like portable CD players and like you walked around with it and you like stepped up on something or bumped into something, it would kind of do that little skip and you would miss that word. It's like that in the audiobooks, but it's written out with dashes, which I thought was interesting. There's not really Christian faith content except loosely throughout the series. I have read book 4. I have one more book to read, book 5, and then I think the series is done. And so what's interesting, though, is her governess, Miss Judson, is the daughter of missionaries. So, like, we get the Christianity aspect from her. But I definitely wouldn't call this a Christian series at all. I feel like if you are interested in, like, the criminal justice or, like, you've had exposure to that kind of thing, that's when it would be okay for a middle grade reader on the older end of the 8 to 12 range. But elsewise, I don't know if I wouldn't give this a broad recommendation by any stretch of the imagination. Because there is murders and, murders. And, like, Myrtle sees the bodies and she finds the bodies. But they're described in a way where it's more of a medical, scientific, criminal justice approach. It's not written like it's gory, but it's like, there was a blunt trauma to the back of his head, and then there was blood pooled around him, that kind of thing. That was my attempt of mimicking the audiobook of this book. But, I don't know. It's been a really fun series. I'm not going to lie. I've enjoyed them. Some more than others. Like, book 1 is still my favorite. Then I would say book 3. I didn't like book 2 very much. Book 4 wasn't bad. That one wasn't bad. I don't know how I would rank them all. Maybe 1, 3... 2, 4. No, 4, 2. 1, 3, 4, 2. That's how I would rank them currently if you wanted to know that information. But they've been entertaining. I have to say, they have been very entertaining. The audiobooks are really good. And I also like that there's little footnotes throughout the story. And like she'll say, dear reader in this, or dear listener in the audiobook where like she's discussing right to. So it's very personal. I don't know, but I've really been enjoying it. And like the little footnotes, I also, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I love it when a book uses parentheses. I don't know why, but like when we get that like little extra note in a sentence, it makes my heart like a little like happy. I don't know why. That's just how I am. So like that plus footnotes, I'm a happy camper. It's been a really fun series. And then I have 2 more books in the Return to the Four Kingdoms series by Melanie Cellier. I have read them all now as of filming this. I have finished all her fairy tale books, so I'll be updating y'all on those in the next upcoming recent reads. But I did read these, and that was The Desert Princess and The Golden Princess. I gave them both 4 stars. Out of this series, like, I enjoyed these more than I thought, because while reading the other books, I was like, I don't know these 2 characters, and like book 5 as well. I was like, I don't really know them. They're kind of introduced and mentioned within those 3 books. Like, we don't really see them prior, so I didn't really have much of a connection, so I wasn't really looking forward to them, but I did end up enjoying them. I think it was really funny though that like let's see, okay, this one is a retelling of Aladdin, but a gender bent one, so like the genders are swapped. Aladdin is our main girl, and I thought it was really funny that like she has this mysterious handsome young man in a foreign country who can't see injustice and let it walk away, and like he's very protective. It's like, girl, you didn't think for a single second he was the prince? I don't make the rules, I just enjoy them, but it was very fun. She was a little bit of a ninny about that, particularly when she's like, oh, he must be pretending to be the prince. So she had her few little moments that I was just like, Cassie, girl, come on, get some snap together here. I will say that it was kind of slow in the first half, but it picked up in the last half, and it was much better then. And yeah, it was kind of weird though, because we hear about characters from the first series and they're in their 30s with kids now. That was weird, because like, you know, I've binged these within the last few months here, but as the series has come out and like every book has at least a couple year or more in between it, time has gone on in this world, but it hasn't for me, so it's just, that's kind of trippy, you know, just a little bit. But it was fun. Despite its slow start, it was fun. And then I read The Golden Princess, which this was a retelling of Alibaba and the 40 Thieves, which I wasn't familiar with. I will have to say though, this cover, really pretty. All of these books' covers are really pretty. And then they had like a open sesame, and then to close the treasure mine they had closed sesame, and that made me laugh. Every time they said closed sesame, I don't know why, but that just tickled my fancy and I laughed. I went in though with very little knowledge of this book because I didn't really know about that fairy tale. I kind of skimmed it and I was like, okay, I got the general idea. So I was curious to see how I would think of it by the end of it, and overall I liked it. I thought it was enjoyable. It's not going to be a retelling I'm going to actively seek out like I do Cinderella, Rapunzel, Sleeping Beauty, but it was entertaining and it worked well. The romance was lighter, which I was fine with that, and yeah, not really too many thoughts about this one. I liked them both. Not favorites, but not bad. Not bad. And then my last book I have to discuss is a reread, because technically it's a, well, how do I say this? I've read it once, but now I listened to the fantastic audiobook. So I guess I'm counting that as a reread, but I feel like there's technical things we could debate on that, but that is Wormwood Abbey by Christina Baehr. So the audiobook released of this, and I've been wanting to continue on with this series before it finished, which I have now finished the series, and great, fantastic, fantastic series. We're going to discuss that in an upcoming recent reads at some point, but we need to talk about this first book. I adore this series. Like, I can straight up say that. I had this as like a 4, 4.5. I bumped it up to a 5 with this audiobook listen. The narrator did absolutely wonderful. I am learning though that I can do audiobooks if the narrator is British. Like, I need an accent. I can't handle American narrators. So the fact that this was like a British narrator, British setting, I already really enjoy the book so much. It was really, really good to hear it. It was just so much fun. If you haven't heard me rave about this book or anyone else, Where have you been? It's awesome. It's fantastic. The whole series is absolutely wonderful. But this is about Edith, and her family has always been estranged from her father's side until the very beginning of this book, where a letter comes from them saying, oh, the other male heirs have died. You have now inherited Wormwood Abbey. And so they have to go to Wormwood Abbey and meet her cousins, the three sisters, and who are in mourning. But then there's a lot of things that are kind of weird and not adding up and suspicious. And it's because there's secrets in this family line, and dragons, and secrets. Knowing what I know right now, finishing this series, book 5 was wow. But this is book 1. It is such a unique storyline. The cozy fantasy element, like book 1 and 2 is more cozy. Book 3, 4, and 5 have more action, but it's still just so wonderful. I was giddy though listening to this. I was just like so giddy, and it's just so unique. And then the covers, this is one of the times where the covers matches the book perfectly. Like, not only is it, the covers are stunning, and like obviously this is what attracted me to the book. I know we're not supposed to judge a book by a cover, but we all do it, and they're books, it's not people. I think we can bend the rules a little bit. But so when I first saw this cover, I was like, wow, that is beautiful. I want to read it. And that was like last October, I think. And so I read it very soon when it released. And then I realized, wow, what's inside matches this cover. And I mean that in the sense of, like, you have books where it's like, fantastic cover, inside. Or fantastic inside, cover. No, not the case with this series. The cover is great. The inside is great. They are so much fun. I would say 13, 14 plus. If you also really like classic books, though, I don't. I don't want that to scare off my fellow people like that, my fellow readers. But if you really do like classic books, I think you would really like this one. There is such a charm to this series, the vocabulary, the writing style. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful. I could fangirl forever and ever, but I'm not going to, because then this video will be 6 hours long. But I'm tempted. I'm incredibly tempted. This series has been great, though. And I'm so glad there's going to be a spin-off series, because I love these characters. I want to read them. This is like one of the series I start, I want to reread. Which, you know, actually, let me show y'all something I've been working on loosely. So, I started a book journal, which I've been wanting to do forever, and I really haven't. But this book, this audio listen, kind of like pushed me to do it, if you will. So there's my spread. I'm going to be sharing pictures of them on my new Instagram account. But that was for book 1, book 2, and book 3. And then I have book 4, and I'm still got to do book 5. But I really like how these turned out. So I'll share pictures of all of these in close-ups on my new Instagram. But that's been really fun. And then I've been doing monthly spread catch-ups as well. So, yeah. It's been fun. It's been a fun little hobby. I haven't really shared much about it. I just started more recently. But it's been enjoyable to have a little creative outlet. So, yeah. Fantastic series, though. That's just been such a fun series. Let me grab my stack of books so we can take our picture, and then I will let y'all go. So out of 16 books, I think that was a really good video. Nothing lower than a 3, though Games in the Ballroom, I might change that. So 16 books in this video. 2 5 stars, 2 4.5s, nothing really lower than a 3. This is a record, I feel like, for my recent reads. Typically there's always like one meh book, but no. These were great. So here is our stack. This stack makes me happy. This was a good stack. So the Games in the Ballroom I'm not keeping, but everybody else I am keeping. And then elsewise, would I buy any copies of any of the other books? Probably not. I've been trying to really just keep track of like the books I want to buy to have on my physical shelf 3.5 or higher usually. Unless it's like a 3 and it's in the middle of a series, I think I'll probably get those. But and elsewise, this is a good stack. I've actually bought some of these in this time since reading them and then now filming this video. So like the Myrtle series, I just bought all those from Book Outlet. And I think that's it. But yes, very good video if I say so myself. Very successful video. I hope some of these caught your eyes. I hope you enjoyed fangirling with me if you've already read and enjoyed some of these. And I will see you next time. My next video, my next probably 2 to 3 videos will probably also be recent reads, because I've got still about 40 books, 45, 50 books actually, to update y'all on. I got the new Kindle Colorsoft. And that is revolutionary. I see why everyone loves their Kindles. I was fine with my Kindle app, but the Kindle Colorsoft is nice. I mean, mine is nice. I know there's been some people who have left reviews that theirs wasn't great, but mine has worked and I have really, really liked it. I'll make a video about it at some point, but that has really upped my reading, to say the least, and then my Kindle Unlimited subscription. So I'm just going to let y'all go though, but next video will probably also be a recent reads. You can look forward to a lot of fairy tale retellings, because that's what I've been in the mood for. The last couple of months, that's basically all I've read, with like a Regency here or there. They have all been basically fairy tale retellings. But if we're not friends on Goodreads, feel free to friend me, and that will give you recent updates, like actually recent. These are just kind of like, in the last month I've read these books videos. But Goodreads is where like there is, if there is any day-to-day updates, there are day-to-day updates on there. And then of course I am on Instagram with Books for Christian Girls and book reviews by Lindsey. That's so weird to say. Remember, my name is spelled with an E though, so if you search and you can't find it, check the spelling of my name. That's probably going to be the problem. I feel like I've lived with it my whole life. It's okay, but just to give y'all a heads up. And then I will see you. Oh, hang on, I'm being summoned. So sorry, I had to go answer a phone call. But that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all next time. But in the meanwhile, I don't know when the next time's going to be, but in the meanwhile, I will be on Instagram and Goodreads. I'm posting a little bit here and there on TikTok, and then BFCG, there's a new review every... Can't really say every Monday and Friday. I used to say that, and that would be accurate, but currently it's kind of a little more haphazard. I'm trying to do better here in the month of December to post some Christian fairy tale retellings. There's a series that's been releasing almost every week, so I'm going to try to catch up and post those. And then some Christmas books. So I have hopes to slowly start getting back into BFCG things. Life is still just a little chaotic though right now. So I'm trying my best. Sleep, what's sleep, no sleep. And just gonna keep on sharing books whenever I can. So I hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope some of these books interest you. And I will see y'all next time. Thank you so, so much for watching. Bye!